Hey everyone, I am Vico and it is English Lore Teller. Chapter 2. Growing Up in the South. Martin Luther King was born on the 15th of January 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. His father, who was also called Martin Luther King, was the minister in an Atlanta church. The King family were not poor. They lived in a good neighborhood of Atlanta and they had enough money to live comfortably. When Martin thought about his early years in Atlanta, he remembered a loving family and friendly neighbors. But the King family were black. Less than 100 years before Martin Luther King was born, his people were slaves. Even in 1929, black people in the South of the United States did not have the same rights as white people. Blacks and whites lived in different worlds. When blacks traveled on buses, they had to sit at the back of the bus. They could not sit beside whites. Most restaurants did not sell food to black people. There were different schools for black children and white children. It was like this all over the South. Blacks and whites lived in the same places, but they were kept away from each other. This was called segregation. Segregation is wrong, but things will get better in time, said Martin's father. White people will start to think differently one day. You should be patient and wait, because you can't hurry change. It will come, but not soon. We have to wait for it. Young Martin did not agree with his father. If you want to change things, you have to act, he thought. He knew himself what segregation meant. When he was very small, he played with a little white boy across the street from his house. His friend's name was Warren. When Martin started school, he looked for Warren, but he was not there. After school, he went to Warren's house and asked to play with him. The boy's mother said that Martin could not play with Warren anymore because Martin was black and his friend was white. When Martin came home that day, he was crying. He told his mother what had happened. It doesn't matter what other people think, she told him. You're as good as anyone else. Don't you ever forget that. Martin remembered his mother's words. He knew that she was right. He was as good as any white boy. But as he grew older, he saw how white people treated black people in Atlanta. Once, when he was in the center of town, he walked into a white woman. It was an accident, but the white woman hit him on the face. When someone asked her why she had done this, the woman replied, "That little black bastard stopped on my foot." Martin's face hurt, but the name that she called him, "Little Black Bastard," hurt him even more. When he started high school at the age of 11, Martin began to make speeches. Of course, he often spoke in church, but at school, he talked about the need to change in the South. When Martin was 14 years old, he won a prize for one of his speeches. He traveled to Washington with his teacher to get his prize, and they returned to Atlanta by bus. When a white man got on the bus, there were no empty seats, so the driver told Martin to get up and give the white man his seat. Martin refused. Why should he give his seat to this man? The bus driver became angry and called him bad names. Finally, Martin gave the white man his seat because he did not to make trouble for his teacher, but he was angry. It was not fair that he had to stand while a white man sat in his seat. He did not want to hit white people, but sometimes it was hard to not to eat them.